Okay, so like most of you out there, I'm sure you have been eagerly awaiting the release of a particular pedal which has come out. I've been quite excited about this, and it is finally out, and we are talking about the Behringer Fuzz Bender. So the Fuzz Bender is a pedal based on the old tone benders back in the 60s. I think they came out. They were things that looked like these kind of long enclosures, just a couple of knobs on them, and they were really big with players back in the 60s. Back then we didn't have tube screamers, DS1s, Boss weren't making pedals, I don't think. There was no transparent overdrives or stuff like that. These kind of simple based fuzz circuits really is what they are, which was what was around. This is what everyone was using to get their tones back in the day, and some pretty overdriven Marshalls as well, but in terms of pedals it was these things. So it's quite a simple pedal, okay? We just have a level control, we have an attack control, and then we've got this switch in the middle which moves between the original, which I think is the Tone Bender Mark 1, and a mod, which I think is like the Mark 1.5, the Mark 2. My tone bender knowledge is not great. But the beauty of this thing, and where it really shines, is what this does as part of your signal chain. So I absolutely love pedals which are organic and musical and work with the rig that you're already using. So I just use a guitar straight into this and into an amplifier, a tube amplifier, and that's a very musical and very natural sounding and organic setup, and this just sits in there wonderfully. So what this does to your guitar is it allows your guitar volume knob to act almost like a range of pedals that you have. Just stick it on top of your amplifier and just run it that way. Don't have it as something which is switchable, there's no need. With this thing, your guitar volume pot is going to become the guitar pedal, and you control how much of the pedal you want or how much of it you don't want, just with the volume pot. Okay, so what am I using? I have a Gibson SG, so humbuckers in the guitar running straight into the Fuzz Bender pedal, and then out into a Blackstar tube amplifier. It's the Artisan 10, the anniversary model, so a 10 watt amplifier with a single EL34 power tube, and it sounds a bit like this. So a bit crunchy, my usual Britishy blues kind of thing, but with the Fuzz Bender pedal on, it sounds like this. So sounds pretty cool. Now you might have noticed that I rolled my volume pot down on the guitar before I turned the pedal on, and that's one of the big things that I want to talk about with this pedal, okay? It sounds cool and it sounds awesome, but it really needs controlled, and the thing that makes it very cool is what it does to your guitar, or basically how it works with your guitar. Your guitar volume knob is going to become super important when you're using this pedal. But here's where the fun begins, okay? I'm going to start turning the volume up on the guitar. Okay, so all that's just done in the volume knob. We've got such a variance in attack and snarliness that this pedal gives us. You can hear it as you turn the volume up. There's just a bit when the pedal kicks in. All this stuff has been on the bridge pickup so far, and it's really articulate and really snarly. If I switch over to the neck pickup, again I'm going to take the volume down a little bit. I'm looking for the tone knob because it sounds like I've got it down, but I haven't. That's full tone on the guitar. Take the volume down a little bit more. So it sounds kind of warm, almost quite smooth and quite singy. So it's nice, you've got to play with it, you've really got to work with the sound, because if you hit two strings at once, if you attack the guitar a lot, then you're going to get an awful lot of output. So the thing that this pedal does best, as I said, is that responsiveness with the guitar volume. The pedal is actually too much. So with volume all the way up, it's too much. It's nice in bits, but I think for me it's too much. But the great thing is you can just turn it down with the volume. I would rather have my pedal doing too much and I can back it down to the sweet spot than it not doing enough and I'm having to use other pedals or other bits of kit to get me to that point. It's a pedal that once you've got it on, you just won't want to turn it off, and there's no real need to have it as a pedal as such that you're going to step on and off. I see it as more as something which is going to sit within your signal chain and it's just part of the rig that you're using. It's not something which is selectable on or off. Just leave it on. Just sit it on top of your amplifier and leave it on and use the controls on your guitar. So what about tone? This pedal does have like an inherent tone to it, and you can't really control that, but you kind of can. You can do something which is pretty smart and pretty cool and something quite old school, which I like. So Eddie Van Halen, if you look at his guitar that he used to use, on the volume knob there was a tone knob. And I remember when I read something about, he was asked, where's your tone knob on the guitar? Thinking like a regular tone pot. And he said his volume knob is the tone knob. You know, he manages to change the tone of the guitar by altering the volume. And this pedal forces you to do that. So on the bridge pickup, full volume. There's not a lot of tone there. Our guitar signal is just being decimated by this. As I start to bring the volume down, you're going to start to hear more of the guitar's inherent tone. That's a nice place. If I come down further on the volume, that almost sounds like the pedal is not on, and that's my guitar amplifier's natural tone. Start to come back up. Just great. There's just no need to have pedals turn on and off. Leave this thing on and just use the volume pot, and you're managing to find the tone of the guitar somewhere within that volume, because it's the attack really that's affecting the tone. As the attack comes up, it kind of clamps down on the tone and just adds fuzz and just extra push and dirt to the guitar, which kind of pushes the tone to one side and just says, here, have fuzz instead. But when you take the volume back, the attack comes down in the pedal really, and it's kind of saying have some of that tone back and not so much fuzz. If we turn the attack down on the pedal, I find that it just doesn't really do much. It's just like turning the volume down on the guitar. So for me, attack goes all the way up on this pedal, and then you just ride the volume control. This pedal is all about your guitar's volume. But when we take our volume up, this pedal can sound quite dull because it's just taking the tone away and giving you the fuzz, particularly on a darker sounding pickup. So this is the neck pickup on full volume. Okay, so all the sound examples that I've been doing with this have been in the original setting, the level about halfway up and the attack all the way up. But I'm going to stick it into the mod setting because I think it does something quite interesting on the mod setting, okay? Okay, so it's now in the mod setting and I have the level at about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock and the attack about 3 o'clock. Now it kind of goes into a treble booster territory. Gone is the fuzz, and now we've just got like super treble. Listen to this. As you play with the attack knob, it's going to start to change that, almost like a wah-wah. That's the attack full. It's a strange sound. It's almost like a synthesizer. It's a nice sound, but it's not one that I want for a guitar. So I'm going to take that attack back down to about sort of 2 o'clock. It's a nice sound. It's not one that I would immediately go to, but it has a place. It's pretty nice. And when we turn the volume down, it doesn't get as pleasant. So it's a pretty peculiar setting, the mod setting. It's kind of like a turn the attack knob to where you find that the tone sounds nice with your guitar, and then just leave it there. Pretty cool. I'm going to put it back to the original setting. On this setting, it's just more musical. It's more responsive to what you're doing. Such a cool pedal. So I've seen a few videos about this thing since it came out, and I've read quite a lot of articles and reviews about it, and it seems to have put a few people kind of in a bit of a spin about this, okay? They don't like the fact that this is kind of like a copy. It's a clone of a Tone Bender, and it's quite cheap. I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. Behringer are a good company, and I think they release good equipment, and this is probably the best Behringer thing I've ever played. It's metal. The switching on it actually feels really nice. It's a very, very well made pedal, but why wouldn't it be, yeah? Why would it be a bad pedal? I can't buy a Tone Bender. They don't make them anymore, I don't believe, so the only ones you can get from the ones that are back in the day, and they're going to cost an awful lot of money. This thing doesn't. And yeah, so I don't know what you feel about the whole pedal cloning business. I think I'm okay with it if it's cloning something which is pretty historic and very, very old nowadays, and something that you can no longer go out and buy. And before you wade in on this and kind of set the comments on fire about whether or not cloning things is good or is bad, have a look at your guitar collection, yeah? Do you have any guitars that look like a Gibson Les Paul but don't say Gibson on the headstock? Do you have any guitars that look like a Fender Stratocaster but don't say Fender on the headstock? Guitars have been cloned ever since they came out, and we just seem to be okay with that. We have no problem at all with playing a Gibson Les Paul that is made by somebody else. But we have a problem when pedal manufacturers come out with things. I think it comes down to this idea that we have that musical gear needs to be expensive. If it's expensive, then it's really good. And if something's cheap, then it's not so good. This is cheap, relatively cheap, but very, very good. And that kind of messes with our mind a little bit. We're like, hey, but if this is cheap and good, then why am I spending lots of money on stuff which maybe isn't as good? You know, does this mean that cheap stuff is good? Cheap stuff is not always good, but we shouldn't always kind of think because something's expensive that it is good. We should use our ears and our experience and play things and say, is this good? Is it not good? We shouldn't look at who makes it or how much it cost. Plug it in and play it. And in my opinion, if you plug this in and you play it, you're going to fall in love with it. Especially if you're after that kind of 60s, kind of harsh, fuzzy tone, then this is going to do it. So do you have one of these Behringer Fuzz pedals? Or do you have any other kind of copies or clones of Tone Benders? Does this thing sound like a Tone Bender to you? Are you interested? Do you think you might buy one? What's your thoughts on the whole cloning of Tone Bender stuff? Drop some comments and let me know. And the usual social media stuff, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and I shall see you again.